It's Talk Point again on Lagos Television, and we're glad that you can also link up with us today. My name is Omololu Rosanwo. Today on Talk Point, we shall be looking at party primaries and expectations from the political class. It is no gainsaying that party primaries are expected to kick off up till May, so that things can actually go right in the electoral process. That's what we'll be looking at today. And of course, we know that the 2026 amended Electoral Act gives legitimacy to political parties to have their primaries. And of course, it is that basis at which they can now have candidates that will now contest for the 2027 general elections. As I speak, there are about 22 political parties that will be participating in the 2027 general elections. I have a guest in the studio that will be joining me to analyze that. He's a young guy. He's also a legal practitioner. He'll be joining me to analyze this. His name is Oladipupo Ajayi. He's a legal practitioner. Oladipupo Ajayi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great today. Thank you for having me on your show, sir.
Yes, nice to have you join us. Let me first start on the lighter mood. You're putting on native, yes. Yeah. You're so young, you're putting on native. That looks good on you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, is that a way of saying, hey, I want to be into politics or what?
Well, it's not about the native, it's not about the suits.
Oh.
It's about the energy, your intelligence, your experience, and the love for the people.
Okay. Yes, okay, let's go to the business of the day. What do you make of the 2026 Electoral Act as amended, which talks on political parties that they must have their primaries? What do you make of it?
Well, I must confess, it's a very good provision because, the primary is more or less like a testing ground for the general election. The primaries help us know whether a party is sincere, whether a party is accountable, whether a party is reliable, or whether a party can be trusted. How well you do your internal issues determine how well people should trust you if eventually you emerge in the general election. That is why I love that provision that provides for party primaries in the Electoral Act.
Okay, yes, the Electoral Act, of course, before it was eventually passed into law and signed by the president, it generated a whole lot of issues. That's over now. Now that the president has signed it, political parties are expected now to take part in the primaries, just like I said in my introduction. Now, okay, with that happening now, there's provision for just two ways in the Electoral Act.
Yes.
It's either you go through consensus agreement or you go through direct primaries. Let's talk on the consensus. Let's see how it is.
Well, if you look at the Electoral Act very well, it's very good. It provides that before you can have a consensus, it means all aspirants must have written that they consent to the party's adopted or anointed candidates. So it is a consensus arrangement. However, the consent of other aspirants who are contesting for the same position should be sought and also obtained and properly documented for you to properly constitute or for you to appoint a candidate or for you to say this is a consensus candidate. It simply means if there are 10 aspirants, 9 out of the 10 consent to have a consensus candidate and 1 do not, that consensus, as far as I'm concerned, is defective. So technically, in as much as it gives room for people to have consensus candidates, it still gives room for democracy. If all of us is coming together to consent to appoint one person, then as far as I'm concerned, it is fair. Then the other one is direct primaries. Direct primaries would help us defeat what we call godfatherism, anointing candidates, and the likes. If you have been following the news, you would have seen several announcements by the ruling party saying that everyone should desist from saying a particular candidate is anointed because it does not actually reflect true democracy, true representation. So direct primaries actually help members of the party to appoint whoever they feel is best and most appropriate or who they feel can represent them in the general election. So that's the two ways provided for in the Electoral Act.
Yes, let's go back to that consensus agreement.
Yes.
When you were discussing, yes, we all know that, okay, if 10 people are aspirants and they're seeking for a particular position or a seat, if one says, no, I don't agree, that means direct primaries will take place.
Yes. Of course, it negates it because the element is all candidates must agree to the consensus candidate. Because if one person is not agreeing as such, you can't call that a consensus arrangement. So there must be direct primaries.
Isn't that in a majority? If 9 people agree and one person is saying no, are they not in the majority?
I totally disagree.
How do you disagree?
I totally disagree.
How do you disagree?
Well, we've seen in time past where people buy delegates, where people buy candidates. I don't want to mention name. That one person may actually be the one we intend to represent the entire party. Maybe the one who is loved most by every person who is supposed to vote at the direct primaries. What makes you feel the other 8 persons haven't been bought or manipulated to support the 9th person as the candidate for the party? So I actually love that provision that all candidates must consent to have a consensus candidate. So if one is missing, then automatically it can fly.
Okay, if you're saying that, are we not looking at a situation where it's meant to say, look, there shouldn't be internal rancor in political parties, internal democracy, so that I can further strengthen it?
Well, of course, there should be a balance. We would, because we want to avoid internal rancor, we won't sacrifice representation, we won't sacrifice democracy on the altar of internal rancor. We need to strike a balance. It depends on how well this is managed. If you as a political party cannot successfully organize a direct primary, then why should we trust you if eventually you win the general election? So for the fact that there's a direct primary is not automatically saying there's going to be rancor, there's going to be violence. Things can be organized very well. It's been done in Sena communities, and I see no reason why we cannot replicate that in Nigeria. So do not see direct primaries as a means to, people feel, oh, most of the time it's end up violent. It depends on how you do it. If your direct primaries can be violent, then general election also can be violent. But if you can do your direct primaries very well, then general election too may be free and fair.
Okay, for the direct primaries, are we not looking at a situation where monies will be really involved? Yeah, because although INEC has said we're not going, Electoral Act rather has said we're not using indirect primaries. Now, direct primaries is okay. If I don't agree, let's go to the polls. Now, if we go to the polls and the person that has the highest vote emerges, would you term that as money politics? Because so many people will have said, that's the person we want.
Yeah, well, you see, I wouldn't term it money policy or money politics, as the case may be, if it can buy the entire persons who are eligible to vote during the direct primaries. It also means it can buy every other person who are eligible to vote in the indirect primaries. It also means it can buy every other leader to ensure he is the anointed candidate. So buying votes or settling anybody or money politics does not by any way vitiate the rationale or defeat the purpose of direct primary. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but if it does happen, it shouldn't be seen as a demerit to direct primaries. It shouldn't be seen as a demerit to direct primaries.
Okay, let's...
Because if it happens in direct primaries, it means it can also happen in any other form of primary.
Yes, all over the world, money politics is everywhere. It's just that it depends on the magnitude, which differs from one party or one country to another.
Well, let me quickly chip in something. It becomes very difficult to practice money politics when it is direct primaries, because you have larger number of the party members who are coming to vote compared to delegates. So it is easier to play money politics when there are lesser people than when we have a larger number of people. So in my opinion, direct primaries help reduce money politics. Okay. In my own opinion.
Yes, could I explain why the Assembly, the National Assembly feel, okay, let's reduce money in the system. Let's look at viability, let's look at integrity, so that we can have such in the political process.
Yes, it is one of the reasons. Because if you look at the president, Bola Ahmed Asiwaju, is somebody who loves the rule of law. He loves democracy. And from the Electoral Act, you can also see that, yes, they want true democracy. Sometimes the general public do not know what these people do behind the doors to ensure that the democracy or the tenets of democracy are upheld. I can mention cases that the general public do not know, that the National Assembly and the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had made sure that there is constitutional supremacy. Quite a number of issues, if you permit me to speak on them.
Let's go ahead.
One very good example that the Bola Ahmed president did was the issue of gaming. Before now, there had been controversies around gaming. Who should regulate gaming? Should it be states? Should it be federal? We have the NLRC and we have the state regulators. They went to the Supreme Court, and the ruling was in favor of the state gaming regulators. That is to say, by virtues of the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, gaming and lottery is on the residual list. And the Supreme Court gave judgments in that regard. Shortly, we discovered that the National Assembly began to amend law. They started to make laws to ensure that the federal government retains power to regulate lottery. Of course, we all know it is not in tandem with the Constitution. They did the first reading, second reading. It was about to be passed when the president jokingly in an event said, "Go read your Constitution." You know the way it talks. Lottery is on the residual list, and it ends it there.
Okay.
So it's somebody who, the general public on the street would not know the importance of that statement Mr. President has said. If not, the National Assembly would have indirectly disregarded the provisions, the judgments of the Supreme Court. But the president knows that, you see, on this matter, this is not something that is contained in Section 251 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic as amended. And it's not on the concurrent list, it's not on the exclusive list, and as such, it's on the residual list. So if you have a president who is just about revenue, you would have seen it as an opportunity for the federal government to make more money. But because he loves democracy and is somebody who I know personally that when it comes to rule of law, he makes sure the rule of law is upheld. That was why he said lottery should go back to state governments.
Okay, well.
There are several examples, but let's just actually...
Yes, because we were actually discussing party primaries.
Exactly.
I know that's a little digression, and I didn't want to cut you off so that you can just mention that. Okay, let's look at these primaries that we're holding in across Nigeria. What are the expectations? Now, you're youth,
Very
and
well.
I see that you're a little vibrant from what you're saying. Now, are you also in the system? Are you also in this? Because most times we find that the youths will always rant, they will talk on social media, they abuse, they talk on social media, but they don't get involved in politics. So as a youth, what's your advice? Or are you also in the system?
Well, I'm privileged. I'm lucky to have joined the politics of my own local area, Koshofe, as far back as 2011, back then as an undergraduate. And as a graduate, I didn't stop. I went further. I am still involved in politics. And it may interest you to know, I'm also in the race. Of course, that's not why we're here.
Really?
But I'm also aspiring, yes, for Lagos State House of Assembly 2.
Okay.
Koshofe constituency.
Okay, well, let's just leave it like that. Let's leave it at that. I don't want us to go beyond that.
Yeah.
Okay, now, more youth participation, how can it be encouraged? How can we encourage more youths? Because I see that, okay, youths are, they're just there. Some don't want to participate. Some just feel it is when they're on social media. Some just feel, no, when they talk, that ends it. But getting more involved, how can they get more involved in the electoral process?
I think, in my opinion, the youths are more involved than any other time in Nigeria. What they just lack is strategy. You discover that before now, youths are less concerned, they don't care. But you can look from the last election, they actually went with a candidate and they stood by the candidate. Although the outcome is not what I would love to discuss, but you can see, irrespective of whoever they support, one thing is crystal clear: the youths are getting involved. So for you to say, do we need to encourage them? I think all they just need is for their energy to be well channeled, because as far as I'm concerned, everyone on the streets now have been trying to, let me go get my PVC, let me go do this. Well, it's a different thing. On the election day, they may not step out, just be at their bedroom and being keypad warriors. But I must say, statistics shows that there is an increase in youth participation. there is an increase.
Yes, from what the eligibility list that we had during the last election, they constitute about 65% of the whole eligible
voters, yeah.
for voters. Now,
however, there was nothing to show the statistics of the youths that voted. It's a difference when we have eligible voters, but you find it very difficult because of the secret ballot system to be able to know the amount or the strata or the class of people who voted. If it's something that one can actually tell, oh, if they constituted 65%, it will be, we would say they participated well if the voters, if the analysis of those who voted was done, and they get close to about 50 to 65, but you can't tell. So as such, one cannot conclude that these young people are not involved in electioneering processes.
But INEC says it has that statistics that, okay, yes, it shows the number of people who voted, but even if you look at that on the ballot box.
But they may have from back end, because they have everybody's details.
Yes, you have everybody's, that's why they came up with the 65%. But the only thing is that you cannot say, so you voted in this area, because you would have been going too deep into that, exactly, which I don't think is advisable, because that means you are actually piloting them. You want to know what they did,
exactly,
you want to know which is not allowed.
Yes.
Nobody should know who voted for anybody, and that's the process. But looking at that generally, can we further encourage them?
Yes, we can.
Because because you're a youth and you seem so enthusiastic about rather of coming up to come and participate in the electoral process. Well, how can we further encourage them? Because this is one thing that they have not really looked into.
Okay. Well, I would advise that the young people really need political education. Anytime I tell them, oh, I'm vying for House of Assembly, they just tell you, Abuja straight. If that means they do not understand
the difference between
House of Assembly, State House of Assembly, the federal reps, and the Senate. So those are the things I feel the young people should know. In fact, by the time I told a friend of mine I'm vying, it was like, that's nice. You're going to become the chairman of your local government. Imagine. I was like, chairman election had been done already. This is...
That shows the disconnect. That shows the disconnect.
Exactly. They have the energy. They want to participate. But they need more political education. They need more political education. If the younger generation can be well educated, I'm sure they will do better. They are ready, but they just need the political education.
What advice?
And a very good platform. Because, the very first time I told my mom, she was like, hey, no, the politics, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but when you have a very good platform, gone are those days when election used to be very violent. Now election seems to be peaceful compared to what we had then. If there's an enabling environment, if everything is free and fair, I'm very sure the young people are going to join.
Yes, I want to support what you just said.
And do you know why? We young people are risk takers. An adult will say, can I spend this million in buying forms? Can I do this? But a young man will feel, if I could make this money, it cost me nothing. Let me give it a try, because we are entrepreneurial. We love taking risks. But if we have the enabling environment, right mentors, political education, and very good atmosphere, younger people is going to join politics, I can assure you.
Yes, technology is helping in that direction now, because the BVAS is there. If your name is not on the register, you cannot vote. If your picture is not there, you cannot vote. If you don't have your biometrics captured, you cannot vote. So that's another advantage, to say, look, you are not in the system, you cannot vote there. Now, okay, that done. Now, in terms of voter participation to reduce apathy, how do we go about this?
Okay, in my own opinion, we just need to be as transparent as possible. If we are transparent, it's going to be reduced drastically.
Yeah, because you know I'm saying that, because most times when you go, election days come, you find the youths on the streets playing football. Some are not even ready to go out.
Yeah, it's because they already have this mindset of, we are just going for a mere exercise. It doesn't count. But if the process is transparent, just like I said, they may see reason to get involved. Nobody loves wasting his or her energy You will not want to risk coming out on election day and you discover that your votes do not count. So if there's transparency and accountability, it will increase the number of participation.
Okay, now as we round up now to the elderly ones, what advice do you have? Because either we like it or not, the younger ones will come on board, the elderly ones will stay at the background after some time. So what do you advise for the elderly ones now?
Well, to the elderly ones, I would advise that they continue to be good and to keep setting examples. You see, the youth cannot replace the elderly ones. I do tell people, we need to complement each other. A lot of things are changing. There's sometimes my mom called me to help actually with the smart TV. It's not that she's not educated. And there are some things at my level, I need my younger ones to help me fix. That's the gospel truth. So we all need each other. We need to complement each other. No one is sending anybody, no one is relegating anybody. We need the elders. We also need the youth. Everyone needs to play a very big role to ensure Nigeria gets better. That's just it.
Yes, I think on that note, we might have to leave it like that. I want to thank you so much, Oladipupo Ajayi,
Thank you for having me.
for being part of Talk Points.
My pleasure.
Yes, on that note, we've come to the end of Talk Point. 767 and 112 still remain the lines to call in times of emergency. Stay out of trouble and ensure that you participate in the electoral process so that you can choose the candidates, you can vote the candidates of your choice, and also stay out of violence so that everything can get better. I am Oladipupo Ajayi. See you some other time. Thank you.